one that you're going to be heavily, heavily invested in. South Carolina, number 11 LSU. LSU is a 9.5-point favorite. A lot of line movement on this one. The over-under I have is 18 Garrett Nussmeier passing yards coming on throws outside the numbers and 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. That is specific for a reason. That is what he is averaging per game this year compared to 80 last year. Basically 1.5 completions per game in those areas this year, nearly 4 per game last year. He is 7 for 23 for 90 yards through 5 games on those throws. That is 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage and outside the numbers. Just for a little perspective on what that means, that's 7 for 23 for 90 yards. This year, a very limited DJ Lagway on those throws is 11 for 24, but for 247 yards, 213 of which are on the right side of the field compared to 37 going to the left side of the field, 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. I tend to think, and maybe
all of those misses went to LSU DBs.
There's a lot of them that did, definitely. I tend to think, Will, that the hardest throws for a quarterback to make are left side, at least 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. If you're turning on someone's NFL draft reel or something like that, those are a lot of the throws that they're making to show that they're next level. And if they're layering those throws, beyond the outstretched arms of a linebacker or somebody in coverage, like those are the types of throws you're seeing them make on a repeated basis. You are also most susceptible to big hits when you're trying to make those throws. If you are trying to play through an injury, you're just not going to want to target that area of the field that much. DJ Lagway on those throws, 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, left side of the field, 2 for 11, 34 yards. Garrett Nussmeier on those throws, 3 for 8 for 47 yards. That's it. Now you can probably say, well, that's because teams are playing drop 8 coverage against LSU because they're not even trying to run the ball. They're instead trying to pass, and to do so without the entire field available. That explains essentially why this LSU offense has been really easy for teams to defend. I found those numbers on PFF, and I texted you about this right afterwards because in addition to my eyeballs telling me the obvious, what everybody can see watching Garrett Nussmeier, which is something is clearly wrong, I wanted something beyond the raw passing numbers that reflected a guy who just does not look right yet. And I don't know if he ever will look right this season. Brian Kelly seems to think so. But if you are looking for something in this game that tells you, hey, Garrett Nussmeier is actually looking healthier coming off the bye, that's the area of the field to focus on because he can still make those throws to the middle of the field. And even downfield, he can do that. But outside the numbers is where he really has to push things. And that's been a challenge so far for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's evident, right? And this is the moments that you really are, I guess, a little bit more hesitant to have Brian Kelly as your head coach because we talked about it in the offseason. Literally, we said this, and like LSU fans were like, that's ridiculous. That sounds like a wild thing to say. The thing stopping LSU from a championship mostly is just Brian Kelly at the podium because he finds a way to just say the strangest thing you've ever seen. Whenever Nussmeier is like clearly dealing with something, all he has to say is like, yeah, obviously he's not right because our eyes see it. But when he doesn't acknowledge the obvious, it feels like he's lying to us. And I fully get that. And especially with, some of like the Kyron Lacey stuff that's been going on and some of the other opportunities, him blowing up at the reporter after the Florida win. It's so frustrating. It just feels so much more frustrating and it magnifies everything and puts all these, puts like extra eyes on LSU. And I'll say it like this, against a South Carolina defense that has not been awesome. I think the best outcome for this team in this game is Michael Van Buren reps. Let me tell you why. Either Garrett Nussmeier is right and this offense is what it should be, and they are up in the fourth quarter and they get to bring him in to protect Nussmeier from taking extra hits, or Nussmeier does not have it and there is a switch made. Okay.
Wow.
And so I always say, give me a 2 or give me an 8. I think those are what you want to see out of a game like this. I do not want to see Garrett Nussmeier down to the wire again against South Carolina. This is the game last year. He got hit so hard that refs just felt bad for him and gave him a penalty. Like he just got Pelayed. That was the penalty. Like 15 yards, you Pelayed Garrett Nussmeier. And so this is like obviously different guys. Like they've lost a lot. We talked about that on defense. But I think for LSU, it's about literally seeing what you have ahead of a Vanderbilt team that's been better than you. I mean, so I think that they have one game to either get right or determine that what they have is wrong. And what worries me so much about that is that Brian Kelly has been so stubborn. And it's so funny because he's layering in these answers about, oh, we trust some of the young guys, talking about up and down the offensive line, Kyle Parker, those guys, which is what he used to struggle with, like not playing Harold Perkins early. So it's almost like he's progressing, but every time something like good happens, something bad happens. It's like an equal zero-sum game with this team where the defense was horrible. Okay, now the offense is horrible, and it always has to equate to like a 9-3 team. And so I say that to say this stretch is going to be so big for LSU. I could either see them getting right, and again the offense clicking, and it being like kind of the situation that you talked about in the preseason, where hey, close loss to number 4 Ole Miss on the road. What can you do? It's the SEC, and we're looking back in a couple of weeks saying that, and everyone's happy. Or there's like Brian Kelly still says ridiculous stuff and they're still mad at him, but they got to respect him basically. Or we're going, yeah, this team is kind of dead in the water because the issues that we have talking about health, like you can't scheme health. Offensive line play, not really something you can fix in the regular season. And even health to, Aaron Anderson, Caden Durham. Caden Durham, I didn't realize how impactful he was because LSU couldn't really run the ball. But without him, it's been even worse. So that being said, like, I hate to just not make this about South Carolina in that way. But I just, these are two teams that I honestly feel bad for because they're, these are the first and second team all SEC players or all SEC quarterbacks. And we're getting a game that I think is going to be a rock fight no matter what.
I feel bad for Garrett Nussmeier if he's taking free shots from Dylan Stewart. I don't know that LSU has the right personnel to slow him down. We will see. The South Carolina pass rush as a whole with Stewart, with Brian Thomas Jr., different Brian Thomas Jr., not the one that LSU fans know very well. But if you're hearing those names a lot on Saturday night, this is not going well. That is bad news bears for LSU. Justin Okonkwo, the former Alabama transfer, the All Bang the Drum team member, the former Germany native. Yeah, that's right. Is he originally from, where's he originally from? I can't remember, but he's from Germany originally. Nick Saban loved this guy, recruited him to Alabama, and he's playing really, really well so far for South Carolina. He's doing like the exact freaky things that they hoped he was going to do. But for me, the key to this game is Caden Durham. He is expected to return after he missed the Ole Miss game, and LSU just decided, oh, well, we're just not going to run the football at all. we're not even going to pretend to have a run game. That is so important in this one because South Carolina has had its issues defending the run in SEC play this year. I think it wouldn't surprise me if South Carolina keeps this close early and we're all kind of going, oh boy, this LSU offense, are they going to wake up? This game was so competitive last year. Big time revenge game for South Carolina after they felt very much robbed by the way that those two plays occurred, and ultimately they feel like it cost them a playoff berth. This will mean a lot to South Carolina. They're going to come out firing, and it wouldn't surprise me if Lenore Sellers is making dazzling plays, and also maybe he takes a costly sack or two to knock them out of field goal range. Like that's all very much on the table whenever Lenore Sellers steps on the field, especially against a good defense like LSU has. I think again though, the LSU defense does the heavy lifting and just does enough to give LSU's offense just that breathing room. That 9.5 number, Will, is so weird to me. It's so weird to me that I'm just going to listen to Vegas. I'm just going to listen to Vegas and say LSU finds a way to win this one 28-17 and cover that spread. They are daring you to take the South Carolina points. Daring you. Like if I had guessed the line for this one, like we used to do, and I know that's a big Bill Simmons cousin Sal thing, I would have said like LSU minus 2.5. And instead that line is sitting at 9.5. And you know what? I'm gonna defer to that. I'm gonna defer to that more so than what my eyes have told me. Which so far my eyes have told me like these teams aren't really that far apart. LSU has more elements to its team that make me feel better, but this is going to be a weird game, I think, from start to finish. And even weirder would be LSU winning this game by double digits, even if it doesn't feel like they are double digits better than South Carolina.
Yeah, I wanted to go back through and kind of see. It really does feel like, it. I'm trying to think about what has kind of been more of a step back for South Carolina, and I guess it technically is the offense. Like I said, their defense hasn't been terrible. They were 12th in America last year in points a game, and this year they're down to 34th. But so I don't want to call this defense sorry at all. And I think it just comes down to health. Like again, two quarterbacks that are just kind of perpetually hurt at this point, and we don't know what they have. And I don't want to say anything too confidently, but I really do like LSU's defense against Sellers. I think when we talk about what we like about the South Carolina offense, it's guys losing the eye discipline, getting focused on Sellers, him making an incredibly sick throw. I feel like LSU has the talent to run step for step with the Nick Harbors of the world, which is crazy. Like, hey, design a guy to cover Nick Harbor. DJ Pickett. Like LSU has some of those guys where it's like, hey, you actually can pin your ears back and get after him. You actually do have linebackers in, several weeks. They have Perkins, guys that can, Patrick Payton, guys that can take down Sellers one-on-one, which is so hard to do. So like, I like LSU's defense in this one almost more than I do like them more than I like them against Lagway going into the game. That no one could have anticipated how that game went. But I think on the defensive side of the ball, LSU should feast. But the thing that's so strange is like, they're just wholly unable to turn that into momentum. It should be so easy for some of these teams to get going where it's like, okay, how you have the big play, you have 5 picks, just get an easy field goal. And then the whole crowd is rocking and we're behind you. So that being said, like I don't want to, again, dump on South Carolina too much because they're a team that got a lot of preseason love. We like them. We like their coach. Sellers has been awesome, but he's just been asked to do too much. And like I said, against a well-coordinated defense, I think that's where he's kind of struggled, where it's like he can't make guys miss. He can't make guys lose discipline. But I think the national conversation about this game, not just me, is more about LSU and how this affects their aspirations. And like I said, if this is a close game, because I'm right there with you, I don't really trust LSU to cover a 10-point spread. But the other side of it is if they get right and are what we thought they were, even after the Clemson game, this should be a South Carolina team that's kind of like ripe for the taking. So yeah, like I said, Michael Van Buren snaps is what I'm looking at. If they can get up a couple scores, take Nuss out, I'm like, okay, we're in a great place. Whereas, or he's so bad that he's like, again, doing the lag way and we got to make a change. And I want to see how Brian Kelly manages that. I'm not predicting it, but I think that we need to know if this team has whatever aspirations that it has. Like, let's take the championship out of it. Let's just talk about your schedule, competing for the SEC, what's right in front of you. I think that they need to find some type of way to generate a run game. And I think too, I won't stay on this too long, obviously, but I mean, it's so underrated how Brian Kelly has needed, or needed's the word at this point, needed mobile quarterbacks throughout his career, right? And that's some of the stuff, even like kind of down his coaching tree that we've seen, where guys are like, hey, I need a guy who can run a little bit to keep this offense moving. And now that he has kind of this statuesque pocket passer who objectively, not that he's a bad player, but didn't recruit him, right? Whenever he brought in a guy, it was Jaden Daniels, who is the most electric running quarterback we've seen. And he was able to move the offense with his legs. It's almost like I'm realizing that even the best version of Nussmeier, you still need a running element in a good system under Brian Kelly.
Ian Book, Tommy Reese, Everett Golson.
That's the guy. Yep.
Who am I forgetting? Malik Zaire, former Florida quarterback as well.
But when you had Jimmy Clausen, it didn't really work for him in the way that everybody anticipated, right?
What years did he have Jimmy Clausen again?
That was way back. That was like, I mean, he was one of the greatest recruits of all time.
Did he have Jimmy Clausen?
I believe so. That was like 08, 09.
That's before Kelly. Let me look this up right now. We're going to look this up right now. We're going to get to the bottom of this because this would be the type of thing that I would just be thinking about during the rest of this conversation. Jimmy Clausen was at Notre Dame from 07 to 09. Brian Kelly's first year at Notre Dame was 2010, I believe.
Yes, you're right. So they just missed each other. Whoops.
Just missed each other. Yeah. So, look, there is going to be a level of panic for LSU if they lose this game that outside of Clemson, I don't know that anybody in college football has experienced quite yet. That would be the storyline if South Carolina pulls off an upset. But we're still talking about South Carolina pulling off something that would be really, really remarkable, which is winning at Death Valley at night, something that Brian Kelly he's only lost that game once, and it was to Alabama last year. But yeah, this is going to be such a narrative forming game for LSU for the rest of the season, seeing how they come out of this bye week.